Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Radhe. Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Good morning, devotees. My name is Manjari Gopika Devi Dasi, and today we will be reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, verses 32 through 43, focusing on verse 33. I ask for your blessings that I may speak something pleasing to my spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all the devotees. Let's begin by chanting all together the invocation prayers. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarvasvatim vyasyam tato jaya mudirayet. Jascha praesha vadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yes, so Canto 4, Chapter 24. And we'll be reading verses 32 through 43. This section that we're beginning today of the Bhagavatam, it's actually this section, verses 33 through 66, is called the Rudra Gita. Rudra is another name for Lord Shiva. And what does Gita mean? Song. We have the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of Bhagavan, God. And within the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have several Gitas. Can anyone name other Gitas? The Gopi Gita is the one I always think of also. That's in the 10th canto. There's also the Venu Gita, which is about Krishna's flute. There's the Uddhava Gita. There are lots of wonderful Gitas within Bhagavatam. So today we begin the Rudra Gita. Lord Shiva is a devotee of Krishna, and here he's spontaneously composing and singing these prayers. So let's begin. We can take turns. We have time to read all of them. So with first text 32. Does someone have the mic? Oh, there you go.
The great sage Maitreya continued, out of his causeless mercy, the exalted personality, Lord Shiva, a great devotee of Lord Narayan, continued to speak to the king's sons, who were standing with folded hands. We do one each.
Lord Shiva addressed the Supreme Personality of Godhead with the following prayer. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, all glories unto you. You are the most exalted of all self-realized souls. Since you are always auspicious for the self-realized, I wish that you be auspicious for me. You are worshipful by virtue of the all-perfect instructions you give. You are the Super Soul. Therefore, I offer my obeisances unto you as the Supreme Living Being.
My Lord, you are the origin of the creation by virtue of the lotus flower which sprouts from your navel. You are the supreme controller of the senses and the sense objects, and you are also the all-pervading Vasudeva. You are most peaceful, and because of your self-illuminated existence, you are not disturbed by the 6 kinds of transformations.
My dear Lord, you are the origin of the subtle material ingredients, the master of all integration, as well as the master of all disintegration, the predominating deity named Sankarsana, and the master of all intelligence, known as the predominating deity Pradyumna. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
Hare Krishna. My Lord, as the supreme directing deity known as Aniruddha, you are the master of the senses and the mind. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you again and again. You are known as Ananta as well as Sankarsana because of your ability to destroy the whole creation by the blazing fire from your mouth.
My lord, O Aniruddha, you are the authority by which the doors of the higher planetary systems and liberation are open. You are always within the pure heart of the living entity. Therefore, I offer my obeisances unto you. You are the possessor of semen, which is like gold, and thus, in the form of fire, you help the Vedic sacrifices. Beginning with the Chaturhotra, therefore, I offer my obeisances unto you.
My dear Lord, you are the provider of the Pitralokas as well as all the demigods. You are the predominating deity of the moon and the master of all three Vedas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you are the original source of satisfaction for all living entities.
My dear Lord, you are the gigantic universal form which contains all the individual bodies of the living entities. You are the maintainer of the three worlds, and as such, you maintain the mind, senses, body, and the air of life within them. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
My dear Lord, by expanding your transcendental vibrations, you reveal the actual meaning of everything. You are the all-pervading sky within and without, and you are the ultimate goal of pious activities executed both within this material world and beyond it. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances again and again unto you.
My dear Lord, you are the viewer of results of pious activities. You are inclination, disinclination, and their resultant activities. You are the cause of the miserable conditions of life caused by irreligion, and therefore you are death. I offer my respectful obeisances.
Text 42. My dear Lord, you are the topmost of all bestowers of all benediction, the oldest and supreme enjoyer amongst all enjoyers. You are the master of all the worlds, metaphysical philosophy, for you are the supreme cause of all causes, Lord Krishna. You are the greatest of all religious principles, the supreme mind, and you have a brain which is never checked by any condition. Therefore, I repeatedly offer my obeisances unto you.
Beautiful. We'll return now to verse 33. In the interest of time, we have a very substantial purport to hear. We'll just chant the Sanskrit once, call and response, and then we'll move on to the synonyms. Shri Rudra Uvacha Jitam ta atma vidvarya Svastaye svastirastu me Bhavatarad hasaradham Bhavatarad hasaradham Sarvasma atmane namaha. We'll do the synonyms together. Shri Rudra Uvacha, Lord Shiva began to speak. Jitam, all glories. Te, unto you. Atmavit, self-realized. Varya, the best. Svastaye, unto the auspicious. Svasti, auspiciousness. Astu, let there be. May, of me. Bhavata, by you. Aradasa, by the all-perfect. Radham, worshipable. Sarvasmai, the Supreme Soul. Atmane, unto the Supreme Soul. Namaha, obeisances. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shiva addressed the Supreme Personality of Godhead with the following prayer. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, all glories unto you. You are the most exalted of all self-realized souls. Since you are always auspicious for the self-realized, I wish that you be auspicious for me. You are worshipable by virtue of the all-perfect instructions you give. You are the super soul. Therefore, I offer my obeisances unto you as the supreme living being. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As soon as a devotee is inspired by the Lord to offer the Lord a prayer, the devotee immediately glorifies the Lord in the beginning by saying, All glory is unto you, my Lord. The Lord is glorified because he is considered to be the chief of all self-realized souls. As said in the Vedas, Katha Upanishad 2.2.13, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanash Chaitanam. The Supreme Being, the personality of Godhead, is the chief living being amongst all living beings. There are different kinds of individual living beings. Some of them are in this material world, and some are in the spiritual world. Those who are in the spiritual world are known to be completely self-realized because on the spiritual platform, the living entity is not forgetful of his service to the Lord. Therefore, in the spiritual world, all those who are in the devotional service of the Lord are eternally fixed, for they understand the position of the Supreme Being, as well as their individual constitution. Thus, among self-realized souls, the Lord is known as the perfectly self-realized soul, Nityam Nityanam Chaitanash Chaitanam. When the individual soul is fixed in his knowledge of the Lord as the Supreme Being, he actually becomes established in an all-auspicious position. Lord Shiva prays herein that his auspicious position continue eternally by virtue of the Lord's mercy upon him. The Supreme Lord is all perfect, and the Lord instructs that one who worships him also becomes perfect. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Mata Smritir Gyanam Aphohanam Cha. The Lord is situated in the Supersoul in everyone's heart. But he is so kind to his devotees that he gives them instructions by which they may continue to progress. When they receive instructions from the All-Perfect, there is no chance of their being misled. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10.10, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. The Lord is always ready to give instructions to the pure devotee, so that the devotee can advance further and further in devotional service. Since the Lord gives instructions as Sarvatma, the Supersoul, Lord Shiva offers him respect with the words Sarvasma Atmane Namaha. The individual soul is called Atma, and the Lord is also called Atma as well as Param Atma. Being situated in everyone's heart, the Lord is known as the Supreme Atma. Therefore, all obeisances are offered unto him. In this regard, one may refer to the prayers of Kunti in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.20. Tata paramahamsanam muninam amalatmanam bhakti yoga vidanartam katam pashyemahi sriya. The Lord is always ready to give instructions to the paramahamsas, or the topmost devotees of the Lord, who are completely liberated from all contamination of the material world. The Lord always gives instructions to such exalted devotees to inform them how they can remain fixed in devotional service. Similarly, it is stated in the Atmaram verse, Bhagavatam 1.7.10. Atmaramas chamunayo nirgranta api urkrame kurvanti aihuktim bhaktim itam bhuta guno hari. The word Atmaram refers to those who are not interested in the material world, but are simply engaged in spiritual realization. Such self-realized persons are generally considered in two categories, impersonal and personal. However, impersonalists also become devotees when they are attracted by the personal transcendental qualities of the Lord. The conclusion is that Lord Shiva wanted to remain a fixed devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. As explained in the following verses, Lord Shiva never desires to merge into the existence of the Supreme Lord like the impersonalists. Rather, he thinks that it would be good fortune for him to continue to be fixed in the understanding of the Lord as the Supreme Being. By this understanding, one realizes that all living entities, including Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and other demigods, are servants of the Supreme Lord. So a little context on today's verse. Lord Shiva is speaking to the Prachetas, who are the 10 sons of Prachinabarhi, a king in the dynasty of Dhruva. The Prachetas went to perform devotional austerities to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, before taking up charge of their father's kingdom. Knowing this, Lord Shiva, who's a great devotee of Lord Vasudeva, voluntarily came before them to guide them in devotional service. So today we will briefly establish Lord Shiva's position based on the purport and verses, and discuss the role of Paramatma, and hopefully prayer. We have time for that. I wish that there was someone more qualified giving class today and that we had more time too, so they could explain the glories of Lord Shiva. But unfortunately, you have me, so that's your karma. But yesterday we had a wonderful class by, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name, Brenda Savika, that was phenomenal. So I guess your karma's mixed because you heard from her yesterday. So in Hinduism, there's sometimes a little tension between Shivites and Vaishnavas because the followers of Lord Shiva regard him to be the Supreme Lord, and Vaishnavas, of course, regard Vishnu or Krishna to be the Supreme. But we find numerous statements in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, even as far back as the Rig Veda, that establish Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And really this entire chapter in Bhagavatam is establishing Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Lord Shiva's role. Lord Shiva is extremely powerful. He's not even just a regular demigod. Not that there's anything regular about demigods, but he's not even just a demigod. To clarify Lord Shiva's position in the Brahma Samhita 5.45 offers an analogy. It says, when milk is transformed by acids into yogurt, the yogurt is neither the same nor different from milk. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom Lord Shiva is a transformation for performing the work of destruction. We as devotees of Krishna respect Lord Shiva because in the 12th canto there's a very famous verse. I mean, there are many reasons, but there's this famous verse in the 12th canto where Lord Shiva is described as Vaishnavam Yata Sambhu, the greatest of the devotees of Lord Vishnu. Very lofty title. I'm not even the greatest of anything. And then of Vaishnavas, Lord Shiva is the greatest. So we do have a great deal of affection and respect for him. In addition, in the few verses before this one, in verse 30, Lord Shiva says to the Prachetas, you are all devotees of the Lord, and as such, I appreciate that you are as respectable to the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. I know in this way that the devotees also respect me, and that I am dear to them. Thus, no one can be as dear to the devotees as I am. So in the Rudra Gita, Lord Shiva, as topmost of the Vaishnavas, is teaching, he's taking the role of guru to instruct the Prachetas in devotional service. And which item of devotional service would you say he's teaching them in these verses? Yes, Vandanam. Vandanam. The word Shiva, it's interesting, the word Shiva means auspicious. And in this verse, Lord Shiva confirms that auspiciousness comes from, Krishna, not him. It's Krishna who makes him auspicious. It's his worship of him as his devotee. And he's praying, I wish that you be auspicious for me. In Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. Everything emanates from me. So this auspiciousness is given to Lord Shiva. So the followers of Lord Shiva consider him to be supreme, but here's Lord Shiva's proclamation that he's auspicious because of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. In addition, Lord Shiva confirms he's not the supersoul. He regards Krishna, he says, you are the supersoul in everyone's heart. So now we'll segue into the supersoul. There are three aspects of the absolute truth. Three aspects of God as we know him, and what are they? It's like Bhakti Shastri 101. Yeah. Brahman, the impersonal, formless, all-pervading energy of the Lord in the universe. Paramatma, which is what Lord Shiva is talking about in this verse, the localized aspect of God in the hearts of all beings as supersoul. And then there's Bhagavan, Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In verse 15 in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it's from him that all activities are initiated. So the living entity forgets everything about their past life, but they have to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord who witnesses all of their actions. And therefore, you begin your work according to your past deeds. And in that verse, purport, Prabhupada explains that required knowledge is given to that person. The Paramatma gives them what they need to know based on where they left off. And the Paramatma is also the reason that you don't remember anything from your past life, which is actually a blessing. Sometimes we wish we knew, right? Like, what did I do so wrong last time so that I could fix it this time? But it's actually the mercy of Paramatma, because maybe some of us can remember the mistakes of our youth that kind of just haunt us, right? We're like, why did I do that? I wish I was, more mature. But now we come having those mistakes forgotten, and Krishna is guiding us forward. So there are many examples in the scriptures as to how the Supersoul assists the devotee in their journey. For example, when Lord Brahma was born in the lotus, he was bewildered. He woke up and he didn't know who he was, where he came from, what he was supposed to do here, why he's alive in the first place. So he tried to figure it out by exploring his surroundings. Climbed down the stem, he couldn't understand. Eventually he came back up, and he realized this is futile. So he just began to meditate and perform austerities for thousands of years. And eventually the Lord appeared to him in his heart and revealed to him what his identity is. And in verse 10:10, Prabhupada quotes, Krishna says, "To my devotees, I give the understanding by which they can come to me." And that is the role of the Paramatma. So the Supersoul inspires and gives intelligence to living entities so that they can understand the position of the Lord and understand their position. But without the mercy of Paramatma, without the mercy of Supreme Lord, it's not possible. We have an example, Dhruva Maharaj. That when the Lord appeared within his heart, after all of his austerities, he wanted to offer prayers, but he didn't even know how to pray until Lord Vishnu touched his forehead with the conch shell. And in that purport to that verse, Srila Prabhupada explains that the personality of Godhead is situated in everyone's heart and gives the devotee intelligence to describe him. And he writes, "It's therefore understood that when a devotee writes or speaks about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his words are dictated by the Lord from within." So those who constantly engage in the loving service of the Lord from within dictates what to do next in order to serve him. In the 8th canto, we hear the story of Gajendra, who in his previous birth was a Indrayumna Maharaj, and he was cursed to be an elephant, so then he took birth as Gajendra the elephant. And he was just a regular, ordinary elephant, splashing in the water. Elephants love to play in the water. But by the mercy of the Supersoul, he was allowed to remember a prayer to the Lord from his previous life when he needed it the most, which was at the time of death. That's when we all need God. My dad taught me growing up, he taught me this saying about war. He said, "There are no atheists in foxholes." Even if you aren't raised religious, when you are in a situation where your life can be taken for you, it's at that moment you realize you are nothing and you're not in control. And many people who've never prayed before pray then. And Gajendra, at that moment, he didn't just pray then. It had such intense faith that the Lord helped him remember that prayer from the previous verse. So we can see clearly all the verses out in Bhagavad Gita that talk about Paramatma. In the Bhagavatam, those promises are manifested fully. It's like the Bhagavad Gita is the law book. This is the law. This is what happens when you do this and that and the other. And then Srimad Bhagavatam is the law journal, where it's like all the cases of these laws, how they took place. We can even see the author of the Ramayan, Valmiki. He composed Ramayan because he was empowered by the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada, we know, he called his purports what? Personal ecstasies. And sometimes the disciples would read the books to him, and he would say, "I didn't write that. That Krishna said that." But I want to point out that Dhruva Maharaj, he was able to even get to the point where the Lord manifested in his heart by what? By receiving training from Narada Muni, whom he accepted and worshipped as his spiritual master. The Katha Upanishad says there are two birds sitting on the same tree. One bird is gobbling up the fruit that comes from karma. The other is sitting and waiting for that gobbling bird to turn its face to him. That one bird's just enjoying, but there's this other bird that's just waiting, like, wait, I'm ready to talk when you are. So the moment the soul inquires unto what is this life all about, then the super soul paves the way and puts one on the path to meet your gurus. The Pratapadarshan guru, did I say that? I don't think I said that right. The Shiksha guru, and then of course Diksha guru. So that's why this is the process. The soul has to inquire. There's that famous aphorism, Ata Brahma Jigyaso. Now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth. And when you do that, the super soul is pleased and will help you. So we all have the super soul within our hearts. So why do we not hear him? I don't think I hear him very often. And why do we need, guidance from a guru, from a pure devotee? In Bhagavad Gita 6.7, Lord Krishna says, Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahita. For one who has already conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached. So advanced devotees, pure devotees, gurus, they've already conquered their senses. And Rupa Goswami says, only one who can control the urges, the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, only that person is qualified to be a guru. So this means that a pure devotee's speech, their actions, everything is guided by the super soul. And actually, such advanced souls, whatever they speak, the Lord has to make it come true. That's called reaching the super soul, because the pure devotee's desire, their mission, their consciousness is completely aligned with the super soul. So that's how whatever they say, it's like a prediction. I mean, there are many instances of that in scripture, and certainly I won't go into all of it now. I've seen it in my life. And of course, we could see it with Srila Prabhupada, too. I want to point out, when we offer obeisances, we're offering unto the super soul within the heart of the devotee. So Paramatma is the localized aspect of God. Sometimes we feel God is so far away, but Krishna is so merciful that he's not at all. He gives us 3 different ways to experience him. So God is so close also. Yes, he is far, but he's also very, very close. In the Bhagavad Gita, the super soul says he's the supreme benefactor. In every lifetime, we have so many family and friends, but there's only one person who is always with us, who transfers with us to each lifetime. We have a couple minutes left. There's so many wonderful points in the purport, so I don't want to close without mentioning prayer. At the beginning of class and in the beginning of this purport, we see that Lord Shiva is acting as guru, showing the Prachetas how to execute Vandanam, which is one of the items of devotional service. And it's interesting, prayer is probably the most common devotional practice amongst all religious traditions in the world. And I mentioned there are no atheists in foxholes. It's the easiest way to realize that you're not the controller, that you need help, or that you're so far away from God. It's just in an instant you realize exactly your role with the Lord. Perhaps that's why it's so common. But there are many ways to pray. We can pray to Krishna using the words of Scripture. We can use the shlokas in the various Gitas that we see, or prayers written by the acharyas. We have so many wonderful bhajans and prayers. Or we can just express our hearts to the Lord. And Vandanam supports Kirtanam. It supports chanting. We can bring the mood of prayer into our japa. It's interesting that in the purport, Prabhupada establishes that when we pray, we should begin with a glorification of the Lord, establishing his greatness, his magnanimity, and then we can begin our offering. My daughter, Raseshwari, attends the Gurukul TKG Academy. And so at the end of the year, I get all her notebooks. And I get to look through them. And I was really amazed because they have a sadhana class every morning. It's the first hour of the morning. And she had written these prayers. And I said, how did you do this? Who taught you this? And she said, oh, my teachers taught me. And it was in such a, and I said, can you explain this to me? And she said, yeah, oh, it's easy. You pick who you want to pray to. She said it could be anyone. She had written a prayer to Parshuram. And then she said, and then you glorify them. You tell them about all their wonderful qualities. So when she had written, you're so strong and you're so brave. And then you ask for help, she said. And so she wrote, I ask that you please protect me. I ask that you help me grow in my spiritual life. She said, and then if there's something you really want to ask, you can. She said, it can be anything. But I so appreciated that we have that they taught her that structure. Did you know that in our lineage there are 10 types of prayers? I just recently learned this. Has anybody heard this before? That's something I really appreciate about our faith is how detailed it is and how many categories there are for different things. I'll just read a couple and then we'll open up, and if anybody wants to know the rest, they can. But the first type is Samprarthanatmika, a direct prayer glorifying the Lord. That's what Lord Shiva is doing here. He's just speaking glories. Another one is Svadhyanyabhuktika, expressing humility and embarrassment, informing the Lord, I am very fallen. There's the Mana Shiksha. Examples of that would be Bhajahu Remana or Mana Shiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami. So in this type of prayer, the mind becomes the disciple. We see this a lot in our lineage. The mind is the disciple, and we teach it how to deal with the senses. We consider the mind a separate entity, and we're telling it, pull it together. You got to knock it off. Meditate on Krishna. There are Vilapatmika, statements of supreme lamentation. There's Vaishnav Maham Prakasika, which is revealing the greatness of the Vaishnavas. Sadhana Dehe Lalashika, expressing desire to practice devotional service. There are a few more. If you're interested, you can ask me. But you can ask yourself, what kind of prayer do you usually make? How do you usually pray? And maybe would you like to try a different one? I think we all have our samskaras, maybe of how we were raised to pray. I do. So it's helpful to read these prayers and think of, actually, I could be just glorifying the Lord. Maybe I don't even need to ask anything. So I'll stop here, and you all can share your thoughts. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much.
You're
For
welcome.
a nice class. Really important topic. I didn't grow up praying at all, so I'm still trying to figure out how to do it. And I find myself like wanting to pray when I'm like struggling or I don't know what to do or whatever. And then I remember that I'm supposed to like glorify the Lord first, and it feels like artificial. I'm like, oh, you're pretty cool, you know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Where really I just want to be like, help me, you know.
Yeah.
So what would be like a suggestion that you have?
I can relate to that because, so everybody knows in all my classes it comes up. I grew up Catholic. And there it is. And there are prayers that you learn, you know, that are really beautiful prayers, but you don't think about them ever because you're just like spitting out the Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, blessed are thou. But the way, I don't know if it was my faith or just my parents and their very simple understanding of God, I was always taught like, hey, you have a problem, pray about it. And then when I came to Krishna consciousness, I read this, I still remember like where I was when I read this quote by Srila Prabhupada. I think it was in Journey of Self-Discovery, where he said, when you pray to God, you shouldn't ask for anything because then it's not a prayer, it's a business transaction. And it blew my mind, and I was like, what? That's the only way I pray. That's how I was taught to pray. Pray that you'll do well on the test, and I don't know, pray for this and that. And so I relate to where you're coming from. So sometimes it's a struggle for me too, because my samskar is whenever I need something, I'm like, oh, well, I'll pray about it. But just, I think, reading more of these prayers, maybe reading all of the Gita sections of Srimad Bhagavatam, maybe there's one verse that will really speak to you. like in the Gopi Gita, there's that Pratavakatam Ritam Tapta Jivanam Avivirat. Yeah. So and they're just saying like you are the source of all goodness in the world, and just reading the glories of the Lord. Because I don't think your heart can remain untouched by that. I'm just finding, I think, a shloka that you connect to. And also, I've heard, there was a devotee that said to Srila Prabhupada, I go to the kirtan, and I stand there, and I put my arms above my head, and I sing, but I don't feel any ecstasy. What should I do? And Prabhupada said, you should stand there with your arms above your head and sing. So even if you feel like I'm being artificial by saying you're so great, when I just want something from you, just keep saying you're so great, and remember the Lord's qualities.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Manjari Gopika, thank you for a nice class. So thank you for sharing the 10 types of prayers. So isn't it that when we are seeing the deities during the Govindam prayers, we're like amazed and astounded at how beautiful he's looking today? Isn't that also a form of prayer because we are glorifying him?
Yeah.
So then it doesn't mean that when we're actually asking for something, we're doing all our prayers during the day. And so when we're asking, that's also a different type of prayer. So we've covered our bases with these prayers.
You're very efficient, Tulsi Saki.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for a lovely class. I was thinking on the point of like glorifying the Lord and feeling artificial. I don't know, maybe you can share your thoughts, but sometimes for me what that looks like is, Krishna, I know that you're the most merciful. I know that you'll take care of everything, but I don't feel it, Krishna. Why? So sometimes I'm glorifying the Lord, but I'm also expressing that I don't feel it. And that's kind of my prayer is like, why don't I feel it? I want to feel it, Krishna. Like let me understand your glories. Let me understand that I can trust you with everything, and you're not here to take away from me. You're here to give me, everything. Like it's like I'm glorifying the Lord by understanding that I don't, believe it.
Yeah, I mean, even Lord Chaitanya prayed like that, right? In the Shikshastakam. Like, when am I going to cry when I chant to you? Like, there are so many prayers by the Acharyas that say that. Like, when am I actually going to feel something? Why don't I have the desire to go back to you? That's a real prayer. I mean, I can send you the other categories of prayers. Hare Krishna.
I was just remembered about a time when Srila Prabhupada was asked about kind of prayer, and I don't remember all of the context exactly, but Srila Prabhupada, he mentioned that even when you go, it's not the highest form of prayer to go ask the Lord for things, right? Mm-hmm. That's not like what we're striving for, but he encouraged also that just like a parent, even if a child's kind of like in trouble or maybe not doing the right thing, the parent still appreciates that the child came to them. Even so, in the same way, Krishna is like our Father in that way. So even if we're at where we are at, right, so we can pray to the Lord in our own way as a child going to the parent.
That's very nice. Thank you.
On that point, I also, in my experience, to present my desires to the Lord helps me. Well, the formula that we've been given for presenting our desires to the Lord is Krishna, this is what I want. Mm-hmm. Krishna, you know my heart. You know that this is in it. If you desire, please, maybe you can fulfill this desire. But if it's not going to be good for me, then don't. I don't want it if it's not going to help my Krishna consciousness. And so if that desire doesn't get fulfilled, then you already can turn to that. Okay, Krishna, this wasn't going to help my Krishna consciousness. This wasn't going to be good for me. So, thank you.
Rasush and I were just talking about it in the car this morning, right? We were talking about how you shouldn't ask the Lord for material things, but if you just got to let it out, we both said it at the same time. If you just got to let it out, better to talk to Krishna about it.
one thing I was taught about prayer was glorify, then gratitude, and then get into your intentions, and then
Yeah.
your ask. And I've noticed when I do that, I don't have that hankering of not enough, you know. So if I give that gratitude first, then I really feel like, you know, that connection with Krishna, like you're always taking care of me. But you know what? I'm kind of in this situation, if you wouldn't mind, you know. And so it doesn't become just that business transaction. It becomes that connection. No, you always take care of me. You're always there for me. You know, I'm in this situation. If you wouldn't mind helping, you know, that'd be cool.
That's very nice. Thank you. Gokulananda Prabhu? Oh, first Narottam Prabhu and then Gokulananda Prabhu. There we go.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the nice class, Mataji. Thank you for connecting this with the importance of prayer. I was just thinking that recently I had this understanding that prayers they actually personalize our whole process, because it's very easy to become mechanical in our chanting and in our practice of different devotional activities. But prayers help us make that personal connection, remind us that, oh, I'm dealing with a person, I'm not dealing in a mechanical process where I chant, I get some result. But it's really the mercy of that person that gives us anything, any progress. So prayers are like, it really helps bridge that gap between being mechanical and being really personal and reaching out to Krishna. And japa, like you said also, it's also a prayer, because Prabhupada said japa means we are praying for service. Oh Radha Krishna, please engage me in your service.
Right.
So being constantly mindful of that, I think it's very important. Thank you.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Just thinking why sadhus or saintly people are so dear to Krishna. Because they have natural compassion for everyone and they hardly pray for their own selves. So in my experience, whenever I have prayed, you know, Krishna may or may not have listened to my prayers, but whenever I prayed for others, definitely I've seen that Krishna answer those prayers. So most of the times, people like me, we are self-absorbed and we are always thinking about, you know, we have a big list of our own demands and sufferings and this and that. So we actually, if try to inculcate that habit of praying for others, genuinely, you know, contemplating, you know, definitely Krishna answers those prayers. It is just like going to our father, our spiritual father, Guru Maharaj. You know, if we are praying for others and we are explaining to our spiritual master about others' problems, and all, he's pleased and he will immediately give the attention. It's like that. The same principle there.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Do we still have time?
Yeah,
Hare
yeah.
Krishna?
We have a few minutes.
Wonderful. Okay, anybody else want to share, or I can always go? I always have stuff on my mind. So, Hare Krishna. So today I was actually talking with Premamrita, and she gave me this wonderful thought process during japa, which is I was not doing japa today because I was thinking about something so unrelated. I was like, I don't want Krishna to know because I should be thinking about him and his glories. This is my second week at the Krishna house, right? Last week I was so excited. I was like just so happy. I was like singing my japa. I was thinking about all the glories of Krishna, how he was so cute as a kid and how so brave as an adult, right? But then this week I've just been thinking about nonsense. It's not anything useful for me. So I was talking to Prema and I was like, I don't want to do my japa. And she was like, if it's bothering you that much, you should give it unto Krishna, right? You should talk to him about it and ask him, you know, tell him this is what's on my mind. I trust you and still do japa. And it's interesting because we should do japa with the purest intentions, and sometimes the purest intentions may not be really pretty to look at, right? It's not going to be the most beautiful offering, but it should still be somewhat pure because that's. But yeah, so that's like kind of what I was thinking.
You know, my spiritual master, I just read a quote, thank you, from by him the other day, or he was talking about chanting when you don't feel like chanting. And he said, you know, sometimes the chanting will taste like nectar, and sometimes it tastes bitter. Sometimes you don't want to do it. Sometimes you want to dance in the kirtan, and you think of all the other things that you should be doing right now. He said, but this actually is where you advance, because this is the moment where you choose Krishna. Say, despite me feeling this way, I know it's pleasing to you, Krishna, so I'm going to do it because I know it's pleasing to you. I don't feel like doing it right now. I'm not enjoying it right now, but you enjoy it, so I'm going to do it. And that's actually how we progress in Krishna consciousness.
It just reminded me of something when you don't feel like you have like the taste for chanting, or if there's something that you know that you want to, you can pray for that so that I can chant in a way that's pleasing to you. And if you don't even feel like you can pray for that, you can pray for the desire to pray for the ability to be able to pray for, you know, you can, so you can keep going back and further to wherever we really are in our lives. And we can pray to Krishna that please give me the desire to have the desire to only chant for your pleasure, or to serve for, you know, and it's,
That's
just reminded me of that. Thank you.
Gokulananda Prabhu?
Just remembered Radha Gopinath Prabhu was here a couple months. He taught me this, and he used to always say, this is what he practices before talking about chanting, right? Before even begin our chanting, there are 3 verses that he chants, and I also started following in his footsteps, which is first, Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, that one. You know, how the holy names are like desire fulfilling Chintamani, right? That stone. And then second one is said, Trinadapi, understanding, contemplating on our own position, you know, taking that humble position, because without being humble, one cannot continue to chant. And the third one is said, Nama Chintamani, Krishna Chaitanya Rasaguru Purna Siddha, then Nadapi, and Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama. There is no other way. So in that mood, when we chant, you know, we develop that mood, and then we get into, so that helps.
That's nice. I don't know why I'm learning about this after 9.5 years together. That would have been helpful. I know we're out of time, but a lot of us got the opportunity to chant with His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj while he was here. Totally life-changing. And he has prayers that he does, right, Prabhu? He always does Harinam, Harinam, Harinam Eva Kevalam. Between each round, right? After he finishes each round, he says that. Yeah. Rich, by the way, we're ending talking about chanting His Holiness Ritadwaja Swami Maharaj. He's been hosting also Japa Sanghas, usually in the evenings, which is great for working people. So keep your eyes peeled on that. You think you know how to chant, or you think you know what chanting is, and then you chant with somebody who actually has love for Krishna, and you go, oh, wow. Thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.